Hello and welcome to today's event, Visualizing Data on a Single Pane of Glass. Today's event is brought to you by SolarWinds and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. Before I introduce you to today's presenter, first I want to cover a little bit of housekeeping. We want this to be an educational event. This is going to be a very demo-focused event. We want you to get all your questions answered. So feel free to use that questions box there in the GoToWebinar control panel during the event to ask as many questions as you'd like. We have experts from SolarWinds available to answer your questions throughout the event, and we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's event. So bring your toughest questions and challenges, and we will do our best to answer those. We also have a $300 Amazon gift card that we'll be awarding to one lucky attendee on today's live event. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found at events.actualtechmedia.com. I also want to call your attention to a number of handouts. There are 5 different handouts available for download there in the GoToWebinar control panel under the tab that says Handouts. You can go ahead and just click on each one of those. Those will download locally to your computer, and you can check those out after the event. They are some really excellent resources. There's an ebook in there. So make sure you go ahead and just download those now and check them out after the event because they won't be available or readily available after the event. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to today's expert presenter. That is Mr. Kevin M. Sparenberg, Technical Content Manager at SolarWinds. Kevin, thank you for being on the event today.
Oh, thanks for having me, David. It's always a pleasure talking to your people and all of our customers and everyone about the beauty and the benefit of being good at your monitoring job.
Absolutely, and you've got some really cool demos lined up for us today, so I'm excited to see those. I know the audience is as well. Before we jump into that, I want to first cover what you'll learn and then do a little bit of stage setting here regarding the challenges that so many companies are facing today. On today's event, you'll get a brief history of visualization with the Orion platform. You'll learn how to use PerfStack and NetPath as troubleshooting whiteboards. You'll get diagnostic tips and tricks that you can implement today, and you'll learn how to go from data to meaning with Orion Maps. And like I said, we'll be doing a lot of demo. Now, the reason that today's event is so important and so topical is because companies are being faced with this reality that slow is really the new down. There are greater and greater expectations of the IT organization, and employees and executives, they really have come to expect this kind of 24 by 7 by 365 availability of applications and data. They assume that if Facebook and Google can do it, then the internal IT organization should be able to do it too. And that's a pretty high bar. Also assume that if access to data is slow, it just might as well be unavailable. I mean, that's the expectation. And at the same time, we're being faced with dynamically changing environments and growing complexity. We have massively growing data sets that are being spread or distributed, across multiple locations, across the cloud, across mobile devices, laptops. Our data is everywhere and it's growing. And at the same time, we have too many tools to manage that data, to manage our environments, to monitor what's going on, and not enough correlation of that data. We also have too many problems and not enough root cause identification, in my opinion. And finally, too much reaction and not enough, proactivity, proaction, being able to prevent problems before they happen and identify the root cause of a potential problem before it actually occurs to prevent that downtime or prevent that slow performance. And that's why the SolarWinds solutions that Kevin is going to share with you today, in my opinion, are so important for so many IT organizations out there. And with that, I'm excited to hand it over to Kevin, where we're going to be showing you this product live in action. Kevin, I'm handing control over to you.
All right, sounds good. I will be right there. And I should be showing my screen now. And everyone should be seeing the Orion demo.
Looks good.
All right, perfect. So what I'm working with here, and I'll go full screen for everybody after this, but what I want to let everyone know is this is a fully functional demo environment. It is read-only. You cannot write to it. You cannot make major changes, but it does run 24/7, 365, published by SolarWinds. So you can go to oriondemo.solarwinds.com and log in. Credentials are already in there, and then you can kind of kick the tires with all of our software. So let me go to full screen real fast. I'm going to give you first the very high overview. This is the main dashboard, but even before I dig into that, I'm going to run all the way to the bottom. And this is just for scoping. I'm going to see if my pinch and zoom is going to work all right. Seems to be okay. You can see here we have the Orion Platform and a whole bunch of acronyms after that. And they're all running a specific version, 2019.4. The reason I'm showing you this first is that this is the current build for all of the Orion products. Orion is a platform that a lot of our software sits on top of, and this goes to that correlation, be able to pull data from all these places. So what's great about that is the summary page shows a little bit of everything, comes from everywhere. But our concentration today is going to be kind of on your network configurations, for your pathing, for your flow, mostly stuff that works with the network engineer. So primarily we're going to be working in the network, the NetFlow, and then network configuration feature sets. Now that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in with the very first thing that we're going to discuss today, which is our perf stack. So if I go to home and performance analysis, now you'll notice this is not actually in the network, NetFlow, or network configuration location. And there's a very specific reason for that. It's because the performance analysis dashboard spans all of our products. Now this is one that we've just built for the demo. It's a starter project. You can see here we got a SQL server and we're watching all the CPUs on it, and we're looking at CPU load, percent memory, peaks, and response times. That's all well and good, but say you're the network engineer. What you really want is something that's network facing. So maybe I'm concerned about, I don't know, the network that is fronting all of our web servers. So here's a router including the average memory, CPU, response time, average, and you can see all this information in here. Now, this is great that you can visualize all this, but for me, none of these are going to meet exactly what I need, especially if I'm doing point-in-time troubleshooting. So let's say we got a call from somebody and said, we're getting really slow performance from one of our offices, and we need to see what's happening. All right, so I'll go ahead and build a new one of these. And people who called said, we're having a problem coming from our West Coast office. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for our West nodes, and there we go, there's our West WAN router. So I'm going to rule that out first, make sure it's not something at the edge. Now here's my router, and I can say, okay, well, I want my CPU, average CPU, and I want and since that's a percentage, I'll also take average percent memory used, drop that also there. Cool, great. So now I've got this for the last 12 hours, or I can change that to last hour, last 2 hours, whatever we like. And I don't know if you can see it really easily, there's a small rocket ship here. And what that rocket ship means is that we can actually do something specific on these metrics. You can see the same thing here. That's called real-time polling, which means if you are actively troubleshooting something, if you see one of these, you can actually hit start real-time polling, and we will go out to that device, request statistics. The minute we get those statistics back, we will crunch them, put them into your view, and then go out and request the next set. So it's not based on a polling cycle, it's really right now. So if you make a change that comes in, you can immediately know whether that change had the effect you're looking for. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Let's talk about, we mentioned about this being slow. Well, CPU and memory seem fine, right? It's a router, it's doing what it's supposed to do. But what I really need to know is whether or not my interfaces are being maxed out. But I don't have interfaces on this list, but I do have interfaces. So we have this option here of add all entities related to this entity. We define any monitored thing in the Orion system as an entity because it could be a node like a server or a router or a switch, or it could be a server, or it could be an interface, or it could be a hard drive, or it could be any number of things. So we just refer to them globally as an entity. What I want to do is for this WAN router, I want to see all the things that are related. Okay, well, that's a whole lot of information real fast, right? Well, this router happens to be a member of these two groups, happens to have these hardware status monitored, these hardware categories, these hardware sensors, all of this ships with the network performance monitor tool and the interfaces. That's what I'm interested in. So let's go ahead and look at our MPLS circuit. So our MPLS circuit, maybe I want to look at my interface traffic. Maybe I want to see my receive bits per second, and maybe I want to see my average transmit bits per second. And I can put them both on the same chart, or I can put them on a different chart. And there we go. So this is based on the number of megs, which is perfect. And if you actually know that this is a 10 meg circuit, or you know it's a 100 meg circuit, you can get a really good estimation. But what other thing I like about this is we'll actually let you go in there and say, hey, this circuit is a 10 meg circuit, even if you didn't define this with a bandwidth statement, and we'll give you percentages off of that if you want. But why is this good? This is all, this is nice, it's cute, but what's really nice about this is actually being able to say, you know what? I have determined, and you all with me, that looking at this does not look like we're maxing out the circuit at all. So whatever problem this person's reporting is probably a problem relating to the endpoint they're connecting. Maybe they're coming from the East Coast office, going to the West Coast office, and then going into a server on the backside of West. And that's fine. And let's say, hey, not my problem. I'm the network engineer. This is totally cool. So what I can do is I can say, I've already done my legwork. I can see it's not a problem here, then I can share this. So it copies the URL to the clipboard. Now this looks all crazy, and that's fine. And for the sake of demo, this is the reason I'm using two browsers. Let me go ahead and bring up Chrome. So now I've got that one, and I've sent it to my friend who is on the server team. I said, look, I've already done the legwork here. I know it's not the network, but I want to prove to you as well. So I can actually send this to them, and they get the exact same stack. And they're like, oh, okay, this is the time slice we're looking for. I can see, yeah, you're right. It doesn't look to be a problem with the router, but let's go ahead and add one. So these are the things being monitored, but now I got to worry about the server. So maybe it's my West SharePoint or what have you, or whatever. Oh, it helps if I actually select the application. So then we'll go ahead and look for SharePoint. There we go. Select my SharePoint app. Same thing as before. And then I can get all of the specific details on those. What is the availability on this SharePoint? Are there any alerts that have generated on this machine? Are there any problems with the service? Is the number of instance counts, CPU, memory? So just like the way you would troubleshoot anything else, I can say, okay, so this also doesn't look like it's a problem with my server. I mean, we're a little high, but we're not horrible. So then I can say, okay, good. Now I can share this. Again, you can just see the URL just keeps growing and growing. This is what's fantastic about this troubleshooting. It's like, as I finish it, I can check the box, say, yes, it's not the network, move it to the other team. Instead of just having them have to trust me, what their real trust is, their trust is in the metrics. So we've actually built several of these, and we have them in our demo out of the box just as examples. So you can actually just go to load, find projects, and then SQL Server memory, related clusters, hybrid cloud front end. And yes, I can leave those settings. So this one's really interesting. So what this is this is actually a database server with a cluster, cloud-based, with web servers and everything else connected to it. And being able to actually see all this information in one fell swoop, including everything down to the VMware events for the on-prem solution and the back-end storage, this is why something like PerfStack or Performance Analyzer is amazing, because I can take this information and regardless of the product in which it's surfaced, I can show it everywhere. In fact, I can look at stuff like total instance wait time, highlight that from the database, and say, what does that look like? Well, here are the SQL statements that are actually causing those waits. Now, I know this goes beyond what we're talking about for the network. The network will include things like your changes and your flow of data and your interface and your up and downs, and that's great. But what we really need to stop doing is we need to stop troubleshooting stuff in a silo, and that's what PerfStack really does for you. It tells you, look, even if it's not me, it's still my problem to help this person get through. Slow being the new down, down's easy. I mean, I think everyone on this call can agree, down is incredibly easy. When something's down, it doesn't respond to ping, you can't log into it, have someone go out there and power cycle it. Yay, we're back. But when something's slow, that's when you really need to put your thinking cap on. So like I said, we ship with a lot of these out of the box, so you can get an idea. But let's say I've already built one. Let's say I've built one for my WAN circuits, and I just want to watch how my WAN circuits are doing. Well, it just so happens that I have one of those. Once you've actually gone and built a perf stack and saved it, you can then put it on any dashboard you like. Now this one happens to be on our main dashboard. Let me zoom in a little bit here. But you can see this is the same information you were dealing with before. So hover over, get my information, discards, discards, discards. And us network engineers know that, errors are really bad. So this is probably bad. But discards is not bad because that's probably quality of service or something else I put on there. But being able to actually see this information and surface this in a view that is right there in front of you and is available perhaps to your help desk or perhaps to your non-networking teams to make sure it's available for everyone in the infrastructure so they understand where things are going. That's kind of important. There's a number of things you can build off PerfStack. One thing I do want to mention though is a lot of people ask us, where do we get this information? And we get that from realistically all the products. And I'm going to show you this screen, and it's going to be a little bit of a little heavy, and that's fine. What we actually have here is this is what we call our environment view. Now, this won't apply for everyone everywhere, but what we'll actually do is, like I said before, when we talk to a router, we obviously query its interfaces. When we talk to a server, we'll query its interfaces, we'll query its disks. When you assign an application to that, we'll get the application name, the sub-processes, whether or not it's a member of a group, if it's part of container services, whether it's running on a UCS chassis, all of these things. We'll actually pull all that information. And a lot of times that information used to be siloed. In fact, in a lot of ways, it is siloed because it's siloed based around the team that wants to care about it. But if I were to pick something like, I don't know, let's say, I'll give you a good example. Let's say I have a storage array, and yeah, we'll say this one. So I got this storage array. If I click on that storage array, I know that this storage array runs with these pools and has these LUNs presented. And thankfully, since this is a demo, it's not running any applications. But if I were to pick another, let's say an application, and someone says, hey, I'm having a problem with, SQL Server on NOC SP. Well, there's the SQL Server. I know that that SQL Server is running with this database instance on this server, on this virtual host, connected to this data store, which is in this pool, which is on the storage array. What I like about that is we can actually go up here to Spotlight, just filter all that information down. App, database, server. So if I'm troubleshooting this application, you know where I'm going? I'm going to the server because it looks like there's a problem with the server. And what do you know? 90% memory used. Now on a SQL server, that can be a red herring. Obviously, you may want to change that. But for the sake of the demo, this is just a way to surface this information nice and quickly. This information is that these related entities is what we use to build the it's what we use to actually build those relationships into the PerfStack algorithms. So, but if we want to talk network, one thing I definitely want to make sure we hit with plenty of time left over is NetPath. So the number of people that we have running SaaS-based solutions that are now mission critical, as opposed to it was a nice to have, or we could kind of get around it without if we lost internet activity. The number that we have running those as mission critical is insanely high. I'm sure the people on the call that do it. I know we do it here at SolarWinds. I know I even do it for my home, where I've got stuff on Office 365. Maybe I've got stuff in Dropbox. I've got stuff running in web databases because I'm an amateur developer and play with stuff. And when you're dealing with a large distributed organization, you kind of want to know that your users can get to what they need to get to. So that's what's great about NetPath. Because, well, you know what? I'm just going to show you. Here's Office 365. We're watching Office 365 from our East Data Center, our New York office, our Los Angeles office, and our West Data Center. And we've pulled these all fairly recently. So let's just pick one. LA? Let's go to LA. So what we're seeing here, and again, let me zoom. So we have, here's that agent sitting out in Los Angeles, and that's going through our Los Angeles router, then through our private network that we own. You can see all the 10 addresses. And then it goes to our WAN in our West Coast data center, and then goes through a separate set, and then goes through our demarcation point. and then goes through Charter Communications, which is our ISP, and then through another AS for part of theirs, and finally through Microsoft. Now, everyone's going to look at this and say, well, this is just traceroute, right? Well, it is and it isn't. Here's the thing that is interesting about it is that traceroute actually doesn't give you this kind of information, because what's the first thing we all do for security on our firewalls when we first configure a firewall? We turn off ICMP traffic, which means traceroute basically dies at your firewall. What we do here is we actually impersonate a packet. So in this case, this is, let's see. So I'm coming from this source. I'm going to outlook.office365.com on port 443, the SSH port, the one that all of your, I'm sorry, not the SSH, the HTTPS port, so that everything connects. So right now we're green. So it looked like, best guess, everyone from LA can get all the way to Microsoft without a problem. But the internet's not flat. The internet actually has multiple loops. Now, granted, on our network, our internal network, not so much, but you can see these small numbers. You see the 4, you see a 9, you see a 10 underneath these. Let me get in a little tighter. The reason we do that is because something like this Charter Communications network, it's actually really complex, and you don't get any visibility in that. And traceroute wouldn't give you most of this information, because it would, even if you did allow through the firewall, maybe it would follow this path, then go here, then go there and out. And then another time it'll come here, go way up top, come back down, and then go out. But being able to see this information lets you troubleshoot it. Because let's be serious, as network engineers, we used to only care if the internet was slow, that was one thing, you'd call your company and be done with it. But now that you actually have applications on the far side of the internet, that's part of your job too. So this is incredibly important, because if you're trying to troubleshoot a problem with Office 365, you need to know whether or not all of your offices can get to it. And the reason I bring this up is you can see that we've got these time slices here. If I jump back to one we had in the past where there's a warning. Okay, so everything looks clear. Let's go. Here's Los Angeles through the West Network. The West Network connects to the internet. There's our Charter Communication hop. Here's our other Charter network. And then it goes here to Microsoft, and then, well, there's your warnings. 13% packet loss, 13% packet loss, 13% packet loss on this jump. Now, why is this important? Well, you know that this between here, owned by Microsoft Corporation, and this IP owned by Microsoft Corporation, this is a problem in Microsoft's network. So if you actually do have to raise a ticket somewhere, you can contact Microsoft and say, hey, we'll even go in deeper. You're having a problem connecting from this transport node, which is probably actually this one. This is software-defined networking. We're having a problem connecting from this node. What do you know? There's the IP address, IP address, the internal name, the prefix, the AS number, the phone number, and emails you can contact them with. That's it. You know who to contact. Even if SolarWinds, and really regardless of who your network monitoring solution is, even if they can't give you the single one root cause analysis, they will be able to tell you where you need to spend your time. If I save you 80% of your time troubleshooting, I consider that a win. All right, so that's all well and good, but let's talk about what this really looks like in a larger environment. So if we're talking about NetPath, and I'm going to just go back because it's just easier than hitting the back button. And I want to talk about NetSuite. Now, NetSuite is another SaaS solution that goes out to a public. And there we go. So we've got this going through here. Here's we've got some routers, and then all of a sudden, we've got a problem here. There's definitely something wrong, because you can see here in the past, all of a sudden it went from green to red, all the way across. So this is interesting. What is this? Huh? Well, let me take a look at that. This edge is containing a potential routing loop. Well, there you go. There is an English or a plain English description of a theoretically very complex problem. And we can see if we go back to the previous times, that wasn't there. Everything was clean all the way through. Yep, everything is good. But if we look at it now, or at our last poll, we've got the problem. Now, what caused this problem? Obviously, a routing loop is not something that's on the internet, so that's not the problem here. Host is currently unreachable. But you see the floating block? Config change. So if I click on that, this is the configuration, March 17th. as of 10:20 a.m. And here's the previous one. And if I scroll down here, they look pretty similar, right? I don't see any major problems. Whoa, 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 whoa. Someone added something. IP route 208, et cetera, with this subnet mask should go through Ethernet. We're using this out. Whoa. Well, that right there, that caused my routing loop. So you know what you do? You copy this to your clipboard, you put the word no in front of it, and you send that command right back to that router. And all of a sudden that config change, this goes green again, and you'll get another config change message because you changed it again. But then all of a sudden you'll be able to actually get your routing working properly. Now, the reason that's important is because you have a lot of SaaS applications list out there. And I'm just going to bring up O365 for a second because I think it's an excellent example because the number of people that have actually worked with Office 365 is incredibly high. The adoption rate is good, and I'm using Office 365 as an example. It can be your G Suite. It can be stuff run through it actually could be anything through Salesforce. It could be stuff running in Oracle's cloud. It could be running anywhere and everywhere. So it doesn't matter. But normally there is one of these SaaS apps, and you want to make sure it's available to all your places at all the time. It's not just from your data center, like a lot of our stuff used to be. It's not just from your branch office exclusively. It's everywhere all the time. And that's what's nice. You can actually build this up into a little custom resource and say, oh, from New York, I want to see Office 365 from New York. And there you go. Office 365 New York, everything looks fine. Oh, wait, there was a problem. Now, I really like this for two reasons. One of them is it's going to sound shallow and simple, but it's not. Let's take the example here where New York is routing through the West. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense, but we'll assume you have a very good reason for actually having New York route to your West infrastructure before and go to the internet. But we've got New York coming in. Suppose this is an MPLS network. Now, you don't have visibility into your MPLS networks, right? For Verizon or Exo Communications or Tata or any of the major players, if you're talking MPLS, or if you're talking point-to-point circuits as well. But a lot of times they'll make a change. They've got hardware that goes bad. They got interfaces that are running high. They're running their own network monitoring. But because of the contracts, because of the way MPLS specifically works, is they don't actually have visibility into your network specifically. And that's okay. So you may see a change that exists from your subscriber side. Like, let's say I'm picking on Charter just because they're here. But let's say they made a change and one of these routers had a problem, or one of these routes changed, or all of a sudden you're getting horrible packet loss. And we'll actually change the color of these links to let you know this link is running 0% packet loss. Latency is 0, 1, and 6 milliseconds max, and the transmit likelihood across this link, as opposed to this other link, as opposed to these other links, is 29%. Now, if this was changed by, again, picking on companies, if this was changed by Exo or Verizon or anyone else, that may be part of their general maintenance. Maybe they didn't tell you about this maintenance, and all of a sudden you're seeing performance problems. Do you want to spend all of your time troubleshooting stuff way down here if the problem exists way over here? And the short answer is no. But with something like NetPath, you'll just know instantaneously. So that's NetPath in a nutshell. It gets, we say it a lot, and it sounds very much like marketing stuff, but it actually gets you to the network truth, because we'll do all the tests. We'll do the test for whether or not DNS resolved correctly, and it'll tell you, hey, we tried to do this, but it was a DNS resolve problem. Guess what? You're not troubleshooting the network at that time. You're troubleshooting your DNS servers or your resolvers, and then we'll tell you, oh, this one interface is being maxed out. This other interface is being maxed out, so you actually know where these problems exist. So we already talked a little bit about the config. We talked about the network overall. What we haven't talked about yet is NetFlow, and I'm actually going to show the summary on this. So NetFlow is obviously a different bird than just watching interface utilization. NetFlow is actually a breakdown of the traffic within those packets, and traffic utilization does not equal NetFlow, not 100%, because your NetFlow traffic shouldn't always include stuff like your routing replication and your syslog and trap information and stuff like that. That's not part of the actual NetFlow process. However, that is part of your interface utilization. Regardless, it's all semantics. The important part, especially when you're dealing with something like a crisis situation, like a lot of us are dealing with now, is to surface information as quickly as possible and to make sure you get the information you want incredibly fast. So the reason that's great for NetFlow is if you're working in a situation similar to the one that I came from, which is where when we had devices in the field, we requested that their VPNs were tunnel all versus a split tunnel. And if that goes outside the realm of what you're comfortable talking about, I will give you the dime tour of that. That means if I take my laptop outside into the world and I turn on VPN, every bit of traffic I send, whether that is just to Hotmail or Yahoo or CNN.com, all of that goes through my corporate network. A lot of high security environments do this. What that means is all that traffic is going through your infrastructure and then going out the internet and then coming back through and filtering down. And that's fine. It should be done that way in high security environments. That's versus split tunneling, which is where only stuff that you run in-house goes there and the rest goes over your traditional internet connection. But what happens when you have something like a lot of us are dealing with right now with a very large influx of remote workers? You're dealing with a ton of people who are working on, I don't know, GoToWebinar or GoToMeetings, or they're working on Cisco's WebEx, or they're running on Microsoft Teams, or they're running on Skype, or they're running on Zoom, or they're running on any of these things that a lot of us have probably had experience with. And troubleshooting those is not the easiest thing. But thankfully, there's a lot of documentation out there. And I'm going to actually have to take a slight break and go to my personal server where I've set these up. There's actually an article on our community forum called Thwack where you can actually find this information. But if I want to go on my personal one and I go to NetFlow, which is not in the exact same place, and I go to my summary, excuse me, I can actually break out our flow navigator. So this is actual traffic running over, granted it's a lab network, but it is a legitimate one running realistic workloads. You'll see traffic patterns, you'll see to and froms, you'll see which endpoints are being the biggest violators, you'll see what sources are coming in, including stuff that I'm really interested in, like CBQoS. Like I really want to know whether or not traffic is being thrown away in a logical way. That I'm not clipping audio, that I'm not clipping video. Because all that UDP traffic is very hard to get a handle on, especially in most networks, unless you're looking at the flow. So if you're dealing with a lot of video on net or audio on net, all of that is tough to get a handle on unless you're looking at the flow capture. So with that in mind, we've actually built up applications. So you actually have applications in here. Now, these do not come out of the box. These are ones you have to add yourself, but it's really easy. And I'm just going to pick one real fast. Microsoft Teams / Skype. And then I can submit that. Now, I'm probably not going to have any details on here, and that's because this is, there is some content on there because it's a lab. So, like I said, they're running realistic. So what this is all traffic in the last hour going in or out through anywhere in my infrastructure, running on IPv4 or v6, going to Microsoft Teams and or Skype. Now, the way that's actually defined, and you can do this for any application, it's something we don't talk about a lot, is we actually first define an IP address group. So in this case, I actually have all of them in here. And like I said, we've got articles out there to help you find this. But here's all the IPs that Microsoft published, said these are the ones that are being used for Teams and Skype. So we built those. We actually have this so you can import it. You don't have to copy paste. That's annoying. And then you just select an application port. And since they run on certain ones, here we go, Microsoft Teams and Skype runs on port 80, port 443, this range of ports in any direction or from any source as long as the destination is Microsoft Teams / Skype, that IP address group that we predefined. So this allows you to see that kind of level of uptick. It's that kind of jump. And when you're dealing with things like that, there's quite a lot of things that can go wrong, and being able to understand where they go wrong, for that you really need the flow. In addition to that, with a lot of us having remote workers, excuse me while my page refreshes, with us having a lot of remote workers, something we're probably dealing with more and more, and we're not necessarily consciously thinking about, but it should be top of mind, is how our firewalls are performing. So whether or not you're running something like a Palo Alto, whether you're something like a Cisco ASA, understanding actually how these perform, especially since a lot of systems, and SolarWinds was guilty of this as well, A firewall, when you think about it, in the purest, at the very bottom of their hardware stack, is a router. It's a router with a lot of rules on it, but it's a router. At the bottom, move traffic from one side to the other, ta-da, done. But that's not really what it's there for. So CPU, memory, and possibly interface are nice, but they're not the most important part. Some of the most important things have to do with site-to-site VPNs. And for Palo Alto, the Global Protect VPN, and Cisco calls, I forget what they're Anywhere Connect, or Any Connect. But this is the kind of more important stuff. I mean, it's important to know that the node is up, this is the IP address, it's got this many interfaces, blah, blah, blah. That's nice to have. But really, when you get down to it, I need to know, are my end users able to connect? How many are connected? If they are failing, for whatever reason, when are they failing? What is the public IP they're coming from? What is the virtual IP they're being assigned internally? These are things that not only can you use to help troubleshoot, but it's information you can then bubble up to, like I said, your help desk or your remote support teams or anyone else. Being able to publish this information and let everyone see it, for me, is something that's incredibly important. So much so that at my last company, I went and made a executive decision, thankfully with the backing of my executives, and said I would like everyone to see everything in Orion except for network configs, because there's some passwords in there, everything in everywhere in Orion at least read-only, including our help desk. Even if they couldn't understand all of it, there were certain things they could get, some things that are quick and easy. Like if I were to build them something pretty simple and show them, let's say I just gave them the site-to-site VPN. I said, whenever you call and say there's a problem from France, I need you to check this page first. Part of their process. Give them this link. You can just copy it. It's the same everywhere. And if they saw this and said, oh, hey, France is down, then I don't have to take the time to go to this page. And maybe there's a follow-up procedure, because maybe this is down because it's a service issue, or maybe I'm not necessarily the first person to call. Maybe the first person to call when this particular circuit is down is a person in the France office, in which case I'm not getting the calls. I'm not necessarily getting alerts, and my time's not being taken away. It's all about keeping this information accessible as quickly as possible. So, in the light of keeping information as quickly as possible and surfacing it as much as possible, I'm going to take a slight sideways step and talk about maps. So I said that I liked and gave my help desk access to everything. That includes maps. And maps generally, and I say this with big quotes around it, generally are easy to read. This map here, as far as I'm concerned, excuse me, wrong click, is not the easiest map to read, just because there's so much content, and that's the purpose of this map. This map is in here to show you, and like I said, this is in the demo, so this map is in here to show you that we can just do all of this. If you want to put every single thing, if you want to put this Denver router connecting to this Denver switch using these two interfaces, fast Ethernet and gig Ethernet, and their traffic, if you want to build this, totally fine, you can build this. Is this necessarily something you want to bubble up to a summary page, or I don't know, a page that shows you just your circuits? No, but if you have the team, in this case, that's really responsible exclusively for the virtual infrastructure and the connectivity there in a Denver location, you could build this and put that on there. I probably wouldn't make it as small as we have it in our demo, but you could actually have it there and made available. For me, pretty sure I have one built that I think would probably work a little better in the situation a lot of us are dealing with. And if it's not here, I'll build it with you real fast. There it is. I did build it already. Rats, now I can't build it with you. Yes, I can. I can fix it. All right, cool. So this is the MPLS circuit, this map. Now this is one I built because, like we've had in this conversation, there's a lot of things in MPLS that you don't really get to see. You're paying for Verizon, Tata, whomever, and they actually have control over most of this. And you're used to that. But I really want to know, like, I can't see anything in my cloud, right? The cloud, for all intents and purposes, doesn't exist. But what I want to do is maybe I need to know, oh, wow, look at those. Those nice thick lines. What's that mean? That means I'm sending and receiving a whole bunch of traffic from this east location. Excuse me. Forgot to go into editor mode. My apologies. From this east location. There you go. 0.53 megs and 24 megs. And you'll see that all of these dynamically change. And if I want to add more information, like I want to actually connect the MPLS cloud and my NUI location, I actually have this little option up here, connect objects. All right, so from the cloud side, I want to talk about NUI, and I want to talk about the WAN router, and I want to select the circuit, and that would be my MPLS circuit. Cool. And I'll show egress, sure. And let's go ahead and go my MPLS circuit again. And this time I want to show ingress, create. Now, even without knowing the actual interfaces on the far side, in other words, the ones owned by my MPLS provider, I can still build a visual representation. What's nice about that is if this is enough, you're fine, you're done. But if you need more infrastructure, maybe you need to see what's connected here. You can actually add additional connected entities here. So you could find, I don't know, east. I think it's a 45. Well, there we go. It's a 4506 core. Let's go ahead and just drop that. Well, what do you know? There it is. There's my WAN circuit. Whoa, I've got a whole bunch of stuff happening. Errors and discards. And then I'm having some type of problem here on the core switch as well. This is the power of the Orion platform and knowing all these different levels of your infrastructure. We know about the interfaces that are on the switch. We know about the power supplies. I can personally tell you I know what the problem is on this core switch because I put it there. It's a hardware problem. It was intentionally built to show in the demo. But then you can just keep building these and extend them out as much as you want. And if I'm done with this and I like it, I can just save it and move on. Or if I want to share it, change the way it works, flip it to a dark background, any number of things. All kinds of stuff is possible with maps, which is one of the things I like most. And they tell simple stories. Sometimes we talk to people, and I'm going to do a little anecdotal here, so you'll have to forgive me. But when we ask people, when we talk about maps, what do you want to see on the map? The answer everyone says is everything. And I'm telling you, you do not want an everything map. This is an everything map, except this is not even an everything map. This is just a Denver map. And this is already too much to see. It's way too complex. An everything map is the complete opposite side of that. What you want is you want lots of small maps that have logical connections between them. I want a map of just, I don't know, my Office 365 connectivity, or I want a map exclusively of my SharePoint on-prem install, or I want a map of my software VPNs to Azure and AWS. Whatever it happens to be, that's what you actually are going to build. You're going to build these small maps that are easily consumable. So we're getting close to the end. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Okay, story time. I'm going to go one last story, and you're going to have to hear me out on this, and I apologize in advance. So the network configuration monitor or manager tool is one of the ones that is near and dear to my heart because I worked with a lot of large infrastructure in my last company. I will give you an example. I don't think we even have one in here. Let me see. Do we have a 45? We have a 4506. Okay, that's the only one we have. So here's a 4506 switch. Now 4506 switch, if you're familiar with those, there's one supervisor blade, or I'm sorry, line card. I'm still going to call them blades no matter what people tell me because they cut me whenever I try to slide them in. And then 5 other. And those 5 others could have up to 48 ports each. So quick, cheap math, 5 times 45, 250, roughly 250 ports active on that. And there's all the ports if you want to go through the list. What we had happen is I was working in an office and we had a satellite office that was 40 minutes away by car. So what happened one morning is we actually had the back plane of the switch, one of the floor switches in that office go bad. And it wasn't on a 4506, it was on a 4510, which is 2 supervisor modules and 8 48 port blades. That's a whole lot of ports. Now, if that goes down, obviously you lose half the floor. You have to get an RMA. You have to get someone to give you a replacement, or you got to buy one. Now, thankfully for us, we actually had a spare one. We actually had a spare chassis because we were in the process of building a new office. So what we did is that morning, I think it was about 2 hours before the switch failed. About 2 hours before the switch failed, someone went in and changed a port and they literally just switched a VLAN from like a user VLAN to I think it was to a printer, if memory serves, or it might have been to a wireless access point. I don't know. I can't remember 100%. But because we detected that change in network configuration manager, we immediately went out and pulled the entire config and got something just like this. So this is the most recent one for that switch. And you can see I'm still scrolling, and I'm still scrolling, and I'm still scrolling. And the one I was working with had 40% more ports than this. You can imagine that was not a small configuration file. So what happened was I was able to take the spare chassis we had at our office, drive it to the other office, take the other one out of the rack, put the new one in, and basically reseat all the blades and put the power supplies in and turn it on. And then of course it came up blank because something happened. So what I was able to do was actually save this out to a file. There it is, show in folder. Was able to open the console window, copy, paste. That was it. I copied, pasted, reloaded the router once just to be sure, or I'm sorry, reloaded the switch just once. All the port channels came up, all the user ports came up, everything was fine. And my job was done. It took me longer to drive the 40 minutes from the office where I was to the new office than it took me to actually get the switch back online. It took me longer to rack the switch and slide the blades in than it took to get that switch back online. It took me longer to actually recable it, which I didn't do because we had local teams to do that for me. But it took longer for them to do that than it took to get that switch back online and participating back in the network. If there's nothing else that NCM can provide for you, it's this backup on a routine basis and as things change. And that, I think, is my time. Am I bumping up against questions? I think I am. All right, so we'll go ahead and drop back. Who's got questions for me? I'm willing to answer, and I don't have a problem saying I don't know, but I'll find out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really cool demo. Thank you, Kevin. We do have some questions here for you from the audience. While we do these questions, I'm just going to bring up our first poll, and that is on the screen now. It just says, would you like to schedule a product demo with a SolarWinds engineer, a personal demo? So we'll leave that up while we do some questions. First off, we've got some feedback, some love from the SolarWinds fans.
Okay.
Carl said, I'm already a fan of NetPath and I'm just learning more on this event. Ali said, I currently use SolarWinds and I really like the level of detail that's being explained today. So lots of good feedback from the audience. First question came in, they're asking, is the main dashboard configurable?
Yes, that's actually a really good question. So out of the box, what you're seeing here is actually not what you're going to see. This is the main one we put on our demo because it's actually has some of the most common changes people do, like this WANs and discards. This is not out of the box. This is next generation network management, including the detail information. This is just a HTML form. This muted alert is a custom query. So yeah, you can totally tweak these, and actually it's pretty easy. So all you have to do is actually here hit the pencil. Now this is in our demo, so you won't be able to save anything, but you can customize the page, you can add widgets, and let's say I was looking for something to do with alerts. If my caps lock is fine, active alerts, I can just drag them, drop them right there, and they would appear in a system where you actually have the capabilities, but this is a demo. But you can always run it in your lab or our 30-day free trial and just kind of kick the tires.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Lots of flexibility there. Another question that came in, Mark is asking, so if our network group has SolarWinds and our SP web team has it, different servers, can we see all their data easily for troubleshooting?
Not easily. And I'm going to
Okay.
say that because they probably have their own security groups. They probably have their own security. There is a way to do that. There's actually a product we have that sits on top of multiple Orion servers. Excuse me. It's called Enterprise Operation Console. It's really designed for highly latent networks, so networks with very high latency between locations, and also for locations that need to be kept separate for any type of policy or PCI compliance or HIPAA requirements or any of those things need to be separated that way. But it doesn't mean people don't use it this way. In fact, I've seen a number of customers say the network team has 5 products and they're all doing the network stuff. Another team's got 3 products and they're doing all the servers, and they won't let each other play in each other's sandbox. And management said, good enough for me. I'll just get a copy of EOC, sit it on top, and watch everybody's sandboxes.
Okay. Okay. Very nice. Yeah, good option there.
Hmm.
Let's see. Another question that came in. They're asking, is there a list of custom IP address groups somewhere? And if you want to show something, just let me know, and I'll close the poll question.
Let me bring that up real fast because we've just started on this. Thwack.com. So if you're not familiar with Thwack.com, Thwack.com is our community forum. And we actually are in the process of defining more and more of these. The IP address groups are actually really easy to build yourself, but I want to get to the page. Monitoring WebEx traffic, Teams traffic. So the one I showed an example is Teams. And there it is. So you can actually just go to Thwack and search for monitoring Microsoft Teams, and this will bring it up. It's a quick article that was written by one of the product managers, a guy here named Joe. And he said, here's how you get it using NBAR2, which if you're a full Cisco house, that works great. If you have endpoints that are NBAR capable and they won't put too much stress on the CPU and memory, fine. Super easy way, just check the box, make sure you've got the most recent protocol pack installed. However, if you're like me and had edge routers that didn't have this capability because they're edge routers, especially in branch offices, you don't want to pay for an ASR series router, or maybe you've got Junipers out there or something else that's, NetFlow capable, then we'll actually give you this list. Now, here's the full list. We give you the source page where we found it from Microsoft, but down here a little bit further, right here, Teams IP Groups XML. You can just download that and import it directly into your NetFlow product. So yes, the IP groups, we are not going to be updating them constantly because that is an insanely large process for everybody as they're changing and spinning up endpoints. However, making it available at least to get you started, especially on this feature that people seem to overlook in a lot of ways, especially for NetFlow, as complex and as brilliant as the information you get out of it is, you should spend a little bit of time thinking about what you want to see. And this is one of those ways we've been trying to help people kind of expose what they want to see.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Let's see. I'm going to bring up another poll now. That
Mhm.
poll is on the screen, and it says, would you like pricing information? We'll just leave that up. Should be a quick, easy question to answer. Next question that came in, Robert is asking, does this play nice with AWS RDS?
Yes, it does. Actually, Amazon and Microsoft's SQL DB offerings both are supported as repositories. So the actual architecture of the Orion platform, and when I say that, I mean it's kind of underpinning. It's the web, it's the alerting engine, it's reporting engine. That runs on a Windows box, preferably a newer version, 2019, please. And what it does is use SQL for a backend storage. That SQL can be an on-prem SQL server on running on another machine, an instance you own and operate, or it can be Amazon RDS, or it can be Microsoft's SQL DB option in their Azure Marketplace. All of those are options. We also have both the Orion core products, the ones that run on the Orion platform, are actually available also in Amazon's Marketplace and the Azure Marketplace. So if you just want to spin it up real fast to kind of kick the tires, you can totally do that in those places, and we'll take care of the entire server build for you, provisioning the database, spinning everything up, and then you can play with it at your leisure.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Another question. Allie is asking, what type of security reports am I able to generate based on certain hosts?
Well, it depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about hosts as far as servers, it kind of falls outside the scope of what we're talking about right this second, but I'll take a little sidebar on that. So one of the things we've added, I don't want to say we've added like it's a new thing, but here under network configuration is this compliance option. Now the compliance options in there for people that are dealing with most of the major stuff, whether you're dealing with CISPs, PCI STIG, or I'm sorry, PCI DSS or STIG or any of these kind of things, they're all in here. So if you need a Sarbanes-Oxley report, you can hit here, update the select report, and then view the report. That's it. These are the ones that ship out of the box. You can obviously import other ones, create other ones that are specific for your environment. For me specifically, the environment I came from was from a completely privately held company. So I didn't have to abide by most of these. That didn't mean that I didn't take some information from the Cisco security audit, the Cisco policy report, and the Juniper and HP and then the HIPAA reports. It doesn't mean I didn't take sections of those and build my own report saying this is what I want, what I consider best practices, and then actually working off that best practice. And I'm guessing on this one. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, here we go. The enable password violation. All right, we got a problem here. Yeah, service password encryption was not found. Okay, cool. So I can just hit exit remediation script on this node and boop, then that script runs on that node. Basically, this is a very simple one at the very top. Goes into enable mode on all the Cisco devices, types in service password encryption, hits enter, and then logs back out.
That's really cool. I love the automated remediation there. I mean, there's so many tools that'll tell you have lots of problems, but not give you many solutions. You're gonna have
Hmm.
to figure them out for yourself. Here, you've got a solution with, click button remediation. That's really powerful.
And let's
Um,
say the worst thing happens, David, sorry, just stop
yeah,
you there. But let's say the worst thing happens and you set this remediation for everything and something goes terribly catastrophically wrong on one of these devices. You've already got a backup from that device from when you sent that configuration because we detected a change in the configuration. So you can just roll back to the previous one.
very nice. Yeah, you got to have that option available
Hmm.
to you. Let's see, another question. Frank is asking, what about supporting non-Cisco gear? Like he says he's got a ASR 1000 or the Juniper MX series.
Okay, so we try to be as agnostic as possible. Obviously, the lab is built with a lot of Cisco. We've got some Avaya, we've got some APC stuff, we've got some Junipers in here. The way I've always described this to people, and it's probably oversimplification, but it doesn't mean it's not true, is if your device responds to SNMP, we'll be able to monitor it. If your device doesn't respond to SNMP and instead responds to an API, chances are right now we'll be able to monitor it. It may not be the simplest thing for all of them, but we will have a capability in there. And if you're looking for just up down, of course you can just use ICMP as your polling engine only. I don't. I prefer a little more detail. But SNMP, V1, please don't use V2C, and any of the V3s we support.
Okay, awesome. A lot of flexibility there. Another question, they're asking, what's the architecture of this? Is it installed on premises? Is it a SaaS offering? How does that work?
Currently, this is an on-prem solution. That doesn't mean you can't run it in your cloud infrastructure. You do need a Windows server, and then you just install it on top of that. We're still bound with the Windows ecosystem because we use a lot of the extensions that Microsoft allows from their .core, or their, I'm sorry, the .NET, not .NET Core, from their .NET framework. So we're looking to, get some more flexibility in there. But right now, you install it either on-prem as a single unit and then point it to a backend database. That database can be, like I said, cloud hosted or local. Or we've had a lot of customers do this. They'll actually build it up in something like Google Cloud Compute or the Oracle Cloud or anyone's cloud, and from there connect it to a database they have running also in that cloud, and they'll monitor all their cloud assets as well as connecting to their infrastructure over the kind of private software VPNs and monitor all their network infrastructure on-prem.
Excellent, excellent. Um, Also around cloud here, another question, can you monitor devices that are in the cloud?
Yes, you can monitor devices that are in the cloud, especially if they respond with SNMP. What you can actually do one step further is we actually have cloud monitoring. So you can actually talk directly to the CloudWatch API and Microsoft's Azure APIs, and we'll actually give you information about those. So these are actually two different sets. This is the Azure demo, where we've got stuff in Canada East, this Red Hat server. And then here we've got, these are all actually, this demo system that I actually know are running in AWS. So we're actually monitoring these instances running wherever they are because we're just connecting directly to the cloud APIs and making the calls there, including volumes and all your asset information. So you know that you're running 5.65 terabytes in AWS and only 729 gigs in Azure.
Awesome, awesome, that's cool. Another question, do you integrate with other SolarWinds products?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to start at the bottom here is talking about these are all the ones that I integrate natively. So these are the ones that ship basically out of the box and already know about each other. That's and I'm going to go through these. So if I go in order here, that's Web Performance Monitor, IP Address Manager, Storage Resource Monitor, Voice and Network Quality Manager, Server Configuration Monitor, Network Configuration Manager, Network Performance Monitor, Database Performance Analyzer Integration Module, Patch Manager, Log Analyzer, Network Traffic Analyzer, Virtualization Manager, User Device Tracker, and Server and Application Monitor. So yes, all of those, sorry, all of those integrate cleanly because they all actually run on the same platform. or have a direct integration piece from this platform. So yeah, really be able to pull all that information in. We've even extended this a little further where you actually have integrations into our ITSM solution, SolarWinds Service Desk. So you can actually have your alerts from your Orion infrastructure go directly into Service Desk. And we've recently announced the ability to actually do two-way communications with asset inventory. So you can actually push asset information from SolarWinds Orion into SolarWinds Service Desk and vice versa. Plus integrations with our cloud offerings like our App Optics solution, and those are constantly extending, and we're building more on those.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about SolarWinds ITSM, your service desk. We're doing another event with SolarWinds in 2 days on that,
Oh
in
wow,
fact. So I'm excited to learn about that and see it in action.
it's
Another
an amazing
question.
suite.
Yeah, it looks very impressive. Another question that came in here, they're asking, is this a subscription? Is this priced in a subscription model?
No, this is, and we didn't get to put up my joking intro slide, but my joking intro slide, the last point on that is I've never been in sales, so I'm the worst person to ask these questions. But I don't know what the licensing model is called, so I'm going to call it perpetual because that's what my mind tells me it is, where you buy it once a year, or you buy it once, and then every year you pay maintenance on it. That's how it's done right now.
Perfect, perfect. Another question, Mark is asking, is there training available?
Yeah, actually there is. So if you actually go to your customer portal, which hopefully I'm still logged in, which is customerportal.solarwinds.com. Let's make sure I can still type. Please still be logged in because I can't remember it anymore. Anyway, so you log in your customer portal, and on the right-hand side will actually be a list of all of the classes we have. So the great part about the classes is if you have one SolarWind product, let's say you just bought NPM, because it really is kind of the gateway. Most people work with their network and they want that information because we really have a lot of it's what we've been known for in the past. If you actually have Network Performance Monitor, you can still watch a video or a training or a how-to guide for something like Voice of Network Quality Manager or Storage Resource Monitor or Server. Just having any one product will let you actually see all of the classes. So you can actually go in there. And the addition to that is if you're interested in actually really upping your SolarWinds game, we have the training classes in there for the SolarWinds Certified Professional Program. So you can actually get SCP certified.
Very nice. I love that training. I love the demo environment as well. Before we go, I know we're out of time. Can you show us, if somebody wanted to try this out for themselves, what's that environment that they can go to and give it a spin?
Sure. So it's right here. And I don't know if I'll be able to zoom in on that. Nope. But there it is. It's oriondemo.solarwinds.com. And what you'll actually be presented with, I'm going to show you here just because I'm being sneaky. You'll be presented with this page with the guest and the password pre. So literally all you do is click log in, and that's it. And you're in, you can kick the tires.
Very cool. I love that environment. Nothing to install, nothing to download. Just jump
Mm-hmm.
right in and start using the product. So I love that you all have set that up for everyone, for the world to use. I also love the live demo and all the real world scenarios here that you presented with us today, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
And before we go, I want to announce the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card. That's going to Mark Jacobs of Texas. Congratulations. Mark Jacobs of Texas will reach out to you to deliver your prize. I encourage everyone to check out solarwinds.com. Visit oriondemo.solarwinds.com. Give the solution a try for yourself. Also, don't forget about the handouts that are available for download there for additional information in your GoToWebinar console. I hope that you enjoyed the event and learned a lot. I know I did. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.